Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today for data-driven decision-making in financial services. Today, we're going to focus in on how unifying your data with HubSpot will have a major impact and can help drive stronger growth for financial services organizations. We're going to start off first while people trickle in with some quick introductions. My name is DiPietro. I am the Director of Solutions Architecture at Street. We are an elite HubSpot solutions partner, one of their top 5 partners globally. And we specialize in working in the financial services space, helping companies unify their people, their process, and their technology around HubSpot. Fun fact about me is prior to joining Street, I actually worked at HubSpot for 6 years and was on the same team as my co-host Mrudula, who will introduce herself in a second. During my time there, I worked in channel sales roles and was also a sales engineer at HubSpot. So great to meet everyone that's going to be on this call and really looking forward to this conversation. Mrudula, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, same here. Super excited to be on this webinar. My name is Mrudula. I'm one of the senior solutions engineers over at HubSpot. So like Chris mentioned, at one point we were teammates, and I work really closely with HubSpot prospects as well as customers during their evaluations from that product and technical standpoint, making sure everything's a good fit. So really excited to share some insights from what I'm learning and hearing from prospects and customers today in that FinServ space.
Awesome. For today, a recording and slides will be sent out following today's webinar. We encourage everyone who's joining this webinar to leverage the chat and the Q&A functionality in the audience section that you're a part of. During this conversation at the end, we're going to take a couple of questions that pop up. So again, please do use the QA section in the chat and feel free to make this as interactive as possible and share where you're from, what you're most excited to learn about, and anything like that. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about our agenda. There are 4 main points of the agenda that we're going to discuss today. Number 1 is the connected data challenge and the impact that has on financial services organizations. We're then going to dive into how to take and turn a disconnected tech stack and turn it into a growth engine. We're going to explore some specific examples of solutions for financial services organizations, as well as share a customer case study. And then finally, we're going to talk through what the implementation blueprint would look like for something like this and how you can set yourselves up for success. Starting off, we're going to do a quick poll for everyone in the audience. So the first poll question, there will be 2. The first question is, how many different tools or technologies do you have that are required to interface or engage with a client or a member? So everything from your website to an account platform, origination systems, online banking or practice management systems, insurance platforms, you name it. What's the number of platforms that a client has to engage with to complete that end-to-end journey? We'll give everyone 10 seconds or so to answer and provide some insight here.
We had a quick answer for 5+ there. Didn't even have to count, just right away.
Not surprising, there is no shortage of technology these days, especially with all the cloud-based technologies. It's usually, for us, I guess, Mrudula, I'd be curious to get your thoughts. For us, we typically see, depending on the industry or depending on the client itself, anywhere from at a minimum 3 to 4, but more commonly than not 5+, especially when you think about banking or credit unions or even accounting firms and things like that. Curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, we're hearing similar things when we're talking to HubSpot prospects from the client or customer perspective. There are banking apps that could be a web app or a mobile app. There's the website resources there. And then from an internal perspective as well, there could be a data warehouse, a reporting solution, core systems, LOS systems, so a lot of different pieces that have to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some. We had one ERD that a client shared with us where there were over 50 different technologies, which from an IT perspective, I'm sure was a fun challenge to solve. So awesome. Well, looks like the majority of this was like we said, 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 or 5 plus. So that's good to know. We also have a follow-up poll question here. What is the biggest challenge that your organization faces due to fragment data across different systems? Anything from inability to personalize, bad data quality, inability to report on the ROI, all of the above. I would love to get people's inputs and thoughts into this. I saw very quickly the bad data quality jumped up immediately, which is not surprising. We're starting to see it even out or even kind of touch on all of the above here. We still see some answers coming in. Mrudula, I'm curious from your perspective, with the prospects that you've worked with or customers on the HubSpot side that you've worked with, do you typically see all of the above? Is there one that's more prevalent than the other?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who we're speaking to, right? Certain stakeholders are going to be really focused on things like poor data quality, which ultimately impacts the ability to report on ROI. A lot of leadership tells us that it would be ideal just to see kind of one dashboard or one point of view that's joining up data from different platforms to give that picture of the full client journey as people move through the education phase to ultimately becoming clients and possibly repeat clients for additional services. So we hear a lot of that from leadership. What we hear more so from end users of these platforms is difficulty just jumping in between platforms, right? Tellers working in one place, marketers working in another place, and just unifying those teams can be tough if we're working in different platforms.
Yeah, and that's not too surprising to hear because I think it really touches on a big purpose of the conversation today is this disconnected system and the trickle-down impact it has for not only internal teams, but also the end client, member, or customer, depending on the company. So not too surprised here to see about 50% of the people saying that all of the above is the challenge. Disconnected data really has a large spreading impact. So I appreciate everyone's insights here. Awesome. So now we're going to dive into the connected data challenge. And so for starters, in today's data-driven world, financial institutions can't afford fragmented systems that slow down decision-making and limit growth. There's a stat that we pulled from this where 54% of leaders in the space indicate that siloed data is a major barrier to innovation and maintaining a competitive edge. For us, a lot of the different firms, institutions, banks, credit unions, accounting firms, insurance companies that we've worked with all have a very similar challenge. Or a similar goal of wanting to drive stronger engagement with their end clients or members, while also increasing the level of personalization that they have. But the number one challenge that prevents them from doing that is the disconnected or disparate tools and technologies. As we saw in the poll answers, most of you all that are here have 3+ different technologies that a client has to jump through. This creates a really disjointed experience for clients. It also creates a really strong challenge as it relates to being able to get a nice, clear picture or view of who your client, member, or prospects are, and be able to deliver the right messaging and information to them, whether it's marketing outreach, sales outreach, or customer success outreach. And so with disparate tools and technologies comes a lot more complexity that limits a lot of that potential growth. And with that, limits the amount of fragmented data and decrease of personalization. So from our experience and from my own experience, both at HubSpot and at MoleStreet, we found that especially nowadays in such a more connected world where information's always at your fingertips, personalization is always really, really important. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me because somewhere in Zoom Info or another platform, I am Christina DiPietro, and how many emails I get and calls I get where people are saying, Christina, we'd love to talk to you about this. The lack of personalization and the lack of, just good data that exists in some of the systems that clients use creates an immediate bad impression or bad experience that sets you off on a bad foot right from the start. And so the ability to really focus on and look into how we can reduce fragmented data, and that doesn't necessarily mean eliminating all the internal tools or technologies that you have, but it does mean create a more concise and consolidated plan of how all of these systems talk to each other, really helps increase that level of personalization. We're going to talk about this in a lot more detail as we go forward. Mrudula, I tap you here, curious just to get any thoughts from you or commentary as it relates to some of the challenges that you've also seen with limited personalization and some of the trickle-down effects that you've had from that.
Yeah, totally. From the solutions engineer side, we've got our ears to the ground. We are hearing from a lot of prospects on specific pain points that are rising as a result of that fragmented data, right? So we're hearing things like, my tellers work out of Jack Henry. They're logging information there. My marketing team never sees that. So when they're trying to communicate, doing outreach, their outreach is not personalized based on what my tellers are logging. We're hearing things like, we want to become a thought leader in our space, but when my marketing team generates content, we struggle to report on what's actually resonating with folks to move them through their customer lifecycle and journey. From the service side, we're hearing things like, we want to provide white glove service, but without information about accounts, whether someone's been active on the mobile app, mobile banking. It can be difficult for our service teams to understand issues that clients are having and be able to give thoughtful service that is based on the client's experience to date. So a lot of issues arising from not having kind of this unified record of what a client is experiencing, making it difficult to personalize, whether that's marketing outreach or sales outreach. Let's say from a loan officer standpoint, having the information that you need to make sure that your outreach is specific, relevant, and timely. And then ultimately from the service standpoint, they're finding clients have to repeat themselves. We don't have kind of a framework of their experiences to provide service that, again, is just specific and timely and relevant.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that also then ties into the final point here of the impact of this challenge is missed opportunities for growth. And I think there's a few different ways to look at this. From a business's perspective, it's growth of the company and growth of whether it's revenues or assets under management or whatever other factors determine growth. But it's also missed growth opportunities for the end client, right? So I think about my own personal experiences of relationships that I have with the different institutions that I work with, banks, financial advisors, and things of that nature. And one of the biggest drivers of my relationship and the growth that I've been able to drive personally is the opportunities are always at my fingertips based off of the information that my team has on me, right? Like the financial advisor I work with is always offering me really valuable information that helps better suit and better serve me based off of my situation in life, where I was at, when I was looking to get a mortgage or, car loan was running out or I was having car issues, helping, identify opportunities where he could add value. And I think that's really important because the growth isn't just about bottom line and more dollars into the business. It's about making sure that you're servicing your clients the best that you can and helping them grow as well and see the value that you offer. So I think this is a really important piece because oftentimes companies just think about it in their own perspective. But as the end consumer, I think it's also really important that growth is also impacting them and how they could actually leverage and see value in the services or offerings or products that you provide. So Mrudula, anything that you'd want to add to this?
No, that's a really great recap there. I think that's kind of the major opportunity, right? Is how do we take an existing client base and maximize the value that they get out of our services and ultimately kind of move them through that customer life cycle to become recurring clients for different services and offerings.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we're going to talk about how to take your tech stack and turn it into a growth engine. Now, again, the preface for this is that specific industries have industry-specific tools and technologies, And those are never going to go away. A credit union and a bank are always going to have a core and loan origination system. An accounting firm is always going to have a practice management system. These systems are always going to be there and serve a really impactful purpose for the different industries that they support. However, a lot of the different tools and technologies that exist today are siloed and limit a lot of visibility into the customer, client, member, engagement, as well as create more reactive processes that limit some of that growth that we just talked about. And so where we've seen, and through some of the clients that we've worked with, an ability to get past some of those tech stack with siloed data into a more customer-centric platform is through implementing HubSpot, and just based off of how HubSpot is set up as a platform. HubSpot's very unique in the ecosystem as being a platform and a product that has grown through internal development. When I started at HubSpot in 2018, it was a marketing product with a lightweight CRM. HubSpot's now become one of the top players as a customer platform in that CRM space, where all client-facing teams, from marketing to sales to client services to website operations and even commerce-related teams, have a single platform to work out of and have a snapshot of all of their unified data across different systems and technologies. In addition to that, HubSpot layers in a lot of layers of AI and intelligence that can help enhance data quality, ensure consistency, and even drive more automation across some of the internal or manual tasks. So with that, we're going to shift over and we're going to start talking about some of the solutions for the FinServ space. I'm going to hand this over to Mrudula.
Sounds good. So we'd love to jump into some solutions at this point. What can we do with HubSpot to accomplish that growth opportunity that Chris talked about earlier? So I'm going to talk through a couple common use cases here, but I do hope that these examples kind of get the wheels turning in your heads, thinking about alternate additional use cases that might be relevant here. But these are a couple that come up really frequently that we're hearing from a lot of prospects and ultimately customers work to implement with HubSpot. So first thing here is new account holder onboarding, right? What happens when we successfully achieve a new account holder? How do we make sure that that onboarding process, that first experience they have with us, is as smooth and efficient as possible? So we can do some cool things like automating onboarding tasks, whether that is on the side of the account holder or internally for any of our employees. And then we can also pivot and adjust based on their activity or inactivity. So maybe we want to loop in an account manager if we see that they've been inactive or are struggling with any part of the onboarding process. So not just running them through a standard process, but actually pivoting based on what they need. We're also seeing a lot of cross-selling use cases. So having a unified record about an account holder, client, prospect, allows us to identify good fits for new account types like money market accounts, high yield savings accounts, or other services and products, right? We can cross-sell into savings, wealth management. We can even tap in additional folks as needed. So that kind of goes into example 3 here, which is loan officer flows. If we identify that somebody is purchasing a home, purchasing a vehicle, they're taking some next step in their life, can we then trigger some sort of task notification to loop in a loan officer to now connect with that client? And again, just having that database in the record ensures that when someone does reach out, that outreach is specific, timely, and relevant. I've been saying that a few times because that's really the key to ensuring a great customer experience from the client side and ensuring they want to work with us in the future. And then, of course, just automating that outreach as well. So for any of your loan officers or other HubSpot users, how can we reduce the burden of manual outreach and give them some way to streamline that? So those are a couple of the use cases and examples that we often see. But again, using some of the HubSpot tools, we can accomplish a lot of other use cases as well. So we'll go ahead and jump into the contact record here, but keep in mind, that's going to be the basis for so many different use cases. All right. So we've been talking about having that unified record. Wanted to give you a real life view here. I've got my example contact, Elaine Bennis. She has been a customer for a while. She has a checking account, might be interested in a high yield savings account. So over on the left-hand side, we've got key details about Elaine, her contact details, demographics, account holder information. Does she use mobile banking? Has she been active in the mobile app? As well as communication subscriptions. And what's really nice is that once we connect to other platforms like LOS systems, core systems, we can also have any of that information populating here. And we can also accommodate any sensitive data fields too. The center column here is going to showcase activities, touch points, and engagements, whether that's from the marketing side, like web page visits and clicks, marketing email engagements, or from the sales and service side, calls, meetings, notes, and tasks, along with details. So this is a great place for all of your teams to get that unified view of Elaine's history. So when we do reach out to her, it's really specific. We have a few custom views here as well, showcasing additional information from core systems, LOS systems. We've got some interactive buttons. You can do a lot of cool things like embedding reports, creating buttons to launch out to other platforms. So we can create a user interface here that really works for your teams. We can always customize these views, add additional sections. So you'll see in that drop down here, we have some additional pieces of information specific to loans or transactions, whatever you're tracking. And then over on the right-hand side, this is where we have Elaine's relationships to her employer, any family members, spouse, related contacts, as well as opportunities. So I have this clear picture of her previous engagements, but also when we've sold to her in the past, when we opened her checking account, has she submitted any loan applications or tickets to our service team? So again, just giving us that full 360-degree view of Elaine as a customer. So let's take a look at what we can do once we have that unified record and we want to start personalizing outreach to somebody like Elaine. So kind of following the thread of that cross-sell example where we want to encourage an opening of a savings account, here's an example of a personalized email. So the HubSpot email builder, it's one of our foundational tools. It's all drag and drop based, so really meant for the marketer or whoever's emailing in mind to be able to put things together really simply and easily. This is an example email where I'm encouraging Elaine, calling her out by name to open up a savings account. And the reason why we're able to pull in her first name or any other details about her is because we have access to that unified record where we can pull data in the form of personalization tokens. We can even leverage dynamic content if we want to surface up specific images, videos, text blocks to specific segments or demographics of contacts. So taking it a layer deeper to really personalize that email. And then of course, we want to keep things engaging. So we have this CTA at the bottom where she can easily make the decision to apply and open up that savings account. Now let's take a look at how we can automate that outreach as well. This is a quick example of some automation inside of HubSpot, but just like we've been talking about, this is really can be leveraged for a number of different use cases. It's like the beating heart of HubSpot. It's how we're automating things from the marketing, sales, and service perspectives. This is for account holder onboarding. So we've got someone who has a checking account. We'd like them to open up a savings account. We can incorporate steps like emails and delays to create a little bit of a drip campaign or nurture sequence. And then we can also pivot based on how the recipient responds. If they go ahead and set up a savings account, we can end the journey here and maybe kick off an onboarding flow. If they're not yet engaging with our emails, if they haven't opened an account, we can continue down that journey and continue to nurture. So not only are we automating outreach, but we are pivoting based on that client experience and whether or not they engage with us in certain ways.
One piece of color I just wanted to add here, Mrudula, is I think it's really important to call out that The enrollment triggers that we talk about here are extremely flexible in HubSpot. It can be based off of any known field or property. It can be based off of a website visit, a page view, a click of a button on a website, right? So there's unlimited potential of how these types of automations can be enrolled. I always like to give a kind of a funny example of if you wanted to find someone whose name is Chris that lives in North Carolina, who's 33, who has a checking and savings account, and has not applied for a mortgage with us and has brown eyes and a dog, if you have that information available to you, you can segment and automate off of that. So you can get really granular with the types of personalization that you can drive. So I think that's also important to call out that there's unlimited flexibility here.
Yeah, totally. That's a great call out. And as we move on over to the next slide, we wanted to highlight how this all comes together in the form of insights and reporting, in particular for leadership who wants to understand the output of marketing, sales, and service efforts. So using all of the data in those unified records and using the data generated by things like personalized outreach and automation, you can have this type of dashboard become your home base for HubSpot, where you can quickly check in on things like marketing attribution. So as a result of our marketing efforts, what did we see in terms of contact conversions, new opportunities being created, and revenue being generated? So you can pinpoint revenue, deals, and contacts to specific campaigns, asset types, or even specific assets. So really helping you to understand where you want to continue investing your marketing efforts. You can also take a look at a type of report that we call a customer journey. So that flow diagram at the bottom is actually showcasing how your prospects and clients are moving through their life cycle. From the first point of contact on your website to engaging with marketing emails, maybe submitting forms, converting on landing pages, to ultimately becoming clients, repeat clients. You can totally customize that journey. And with our Pathfinder tool, you can even have HubSpot surface the most popularly followed journeys for your contacts. So then you can iterate on them, start using them for future contacts, and just tightening up that life cycle so you keep folks moving from one step to the next as efficiently as possible. So a lot of insights to be gained from that unified record. There are, of course, a variety of reports that folks are interested from a sales and service perspective as well. So you can access preset reports inside of HubSpot, but also generate your own. So I like to kind of bring things full circle to showcase that high-level value of that unified record. Now, we wanted to close things out on the demo portion with a quick poll. So we'd love to hear about which of these features get you the most excited, feel the most relevant to your use cases, whether that's the unified record, personalization and outreach, automation workflows, or reporting.
Always exciting to see the quick jump of automated workflows. I think in any case, any sort of way to automate engagement is always really important, regardless of industry. Banks, credit unions, insurance, manufacturing, even any sort of automation creates a lot more efficiencies for internal processes and communication. So not surprised to see that one jump up very quickly.
Totally. I think I see that in HubSpot demos as well. A lot of different stakeholders get really excited about workflows.
Awesome. So it looks like automated workflows followed by the journey reporting and analytics, not too far behind, and then the unified record. Awesome. Good to see. All right, so now we're going to talk about an implementation blueprint for success. And this is really going to be more specific to the Mole Street side of things as a partner and an outside firm to HubSpot. This is the approach that we take and the success pattern that we've seen for clients that we work with. So 4 core phases of solution architecture and implementation blueprint here. The starting phase is discovery. Discovery is the most important part of any project that we do. It's before any sort of contract is signed. Discovery is a really detailed process where we want to align your people, your process, and your technology. I like to jokingly tell people that we do painful discovery because we want to turn over every stone possible to make sure that we have a good, clear plan and vision for what the company's goals and challenges are, and then come up with a plan to drive that forward. So through a discovery process, it's really important to go through and make sure that you're doing things like reverse demos, showing some of the systems or processes that you have when applicable. It's also important to map out and do a process flow and understand, hey, if we have 3 or 5+ different tools and we need to keep them, how do we create a solution diagram where a platform like HubSpot is going to maximize the value? Some folks in the chat talked about in the banking and credit union space integrating a core. For some institutions that we work with, there's actually a lot more to that, right? There's loan originations, there's online banking, there's other tools that need to be considered. And so we really want to look at and understand, if we were to set this up for success, how do we create that custom tailored plan that ties all these systems and processes together? So discovery is really, really important. That can be a couple of conversations that you have with someone, or it can be weeks or months of discovery. It really depends on the client and the situation. From there, that discovery leads to a custom tailored plan. So this is where we're going to create a map and a vision for how we're going to execute this. In a lot of situations, you'll see everything from a data cleanup to a migration, implementation, and custom integrations being needed, as well as just standard configuration of the HubSpot platform and training. So we'll create that plan and vision, and then we roll into that implementation phase. In that implementation phase, this is where a best-in-class team will support industry-specific implementations of the HubSpot platform. So everything from having the right technical knowledge to driving really strong post-sale discovery and continued growth around how things need to be set up and how the team needs to be engaged to drive strong functionality and strong adoption. And then the last piece is iterate. HubSpot's a growing platform. As I mentioned, when I started there in 2018, it was a marketing and a lightweight CRM product at that time. It has now grown to develop to be 6 different hubs with 3 different levels, and so much unlimited potential with new functionality coming out every single week. So being able to continuously maximize the usage of the platform and drive strong adoption and success is really important. And so continuously making iterative changes and enhancing the implementation is really important. From here, we're going to talk about a couple of different success stories in 2 different industries. The first is a credit union client, Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union, or PSECU. This is a longtime HubSpot client, as well as a Mole Street client as well. And a big part of the success with PSECU was consolidating a lot of the outside tech that they had around HubSpot. So initial, engagement with them, there was a disconnected tech stack that consisted of a large enterprise content management system, some different marketing automation tools, and then the rest of the tech stack that all the credit unions have, from core, loan originations, online banking, et cetera. So a big part of this initiative was to drive more personalized experiences and unify their data. So implementing HubSpot was a key portion of this. So implementing HubSpot both as a marketing and a CRM platform, but also as a content management system. So moving off of the legacy platform and into HubSpot helped create a more flexible content platform that helps drive stronger transformation and personalization of engagement and personalization of content, I should say, for new and existing members. In addition to that, this unified data helped create more proactive member engagement. So being able to drive the right message at the right time to new or prospective members, as well as existing members as well. And so with all of that, PSECU has seen some really strong transformation and has been a huge advocate of HubSpot and Wall Street's as well through the work that we've done with them. A big piece of this too. So one of the questions that was asked earlier, and we're going to come back to this in the Q&A section, was if you don't have a data warehouse, can you still unify data? I don't know if my face is blocking this on everyone's screen, but a big part of our relationship with PSECU and being able to help unify data was through some of the different data activation platforms that help consolidate data from all these different systems. That company, in this case, is a company called Datava, which is really commonly used in the credit union and banking space. And they were a huge impact and influencer on helping be able to consolidate data. The next piece that we're going to talk about, our next client, is a top 100 accounting firm called Sachs LLP. Sachs LLP is, as I mentioned, top 100 firm in the United States. They specialize, as most accounting firms do, in a lot of different things: tax services, advisory, consulting, software implementation, managed services. They're really well known and well respected in the space. And they first came to HubSpot and to Mole Street looking at a lot of disconnected systems that limited the growth that they were able to provide. The accounting space is super interesting because you have a lot of different partners that specialize in different practice areas, but they're like a lot of the legacy technology that they use is really disparate and makes it hard to get a unified view of a single client record. And so a big part of this initiative with one of our other partners, iWin, which is another accounting software in the space that helps with some integration capabilities, was to unify their data and implement HubSpot. From there, we were able to drive a lot of former inefficient processes into more automated and streamlined connections that help them take opportunities that they had from a marketing and a sales and business development perspective and drive stronger adoption of a platform like HubSpot, and then ultimately drive stronger growth across the organization. So this has been a long-term relationship for both Mole Street and HubSpot, and their team have been huge advocates of the platform, and couldn't say enough as well about our third-party partner, iWin, who helps facilitate a lot of this process as well. That brings us to our Q&A section. So the first question that we got was, can a bank or a credit union benefit from a CRM like HubSpot without a data warehouse, or would having a data warehouse in place first make things easier? It's a really good question. HubSpot has a lot of out-of-the-box connectivity into data warehouses, BigQuery, Snowflake, and others that make it really easy if you consolidate data into a platform like a Snowflake or BigQuery, or even Datava, who I mentioned earlier. It does streamline a lot of this process, but it's not necessarily a requirement. The big piece that we look at is when we connect for a bank or a credit union, those are the ones that typically have the most technology internally, 5+ different systems. And so when we see that, we need to look at and figure out what's the most scalable way to stand up a platform like HubSpot. And so whether you implement a full data warehouse solution as that, or you leverage a data activation platform that has data warehousing capabilities like a Datava that can help consolidate and take data from different systems, we found that that's a way of doing and being able to leverage HubSpot without having to do a full-blown data warehouse implementation. However, if you have a data warehouse in place, you can absolutely leverage a data warehouse platform and integrate that with HubSpot. So great question. And Mrudula, anything that you would add to that? I know you've got a lot of experience as well working in the data warehouse space with HubSpot.
No, that's all good, Chris. Yeah, you pretty much covered that one end to end.
Awesome. The next question is it safe to assume that these functions can be applied to industries outside of financial services? Interested in learning more about the onboarding, tracking, and task alignment functionality we touched on earlier. This is a really good question. So to no one's surprise, connected data problems and the connected data challenge that we're talking about today is not just a financial services issue. A lot of different companies and industries, like we said, whether it's manufacturing, insurance, professional services, tech, SaaS, you name it, they have the similar challenge of a lot of disparate tools and needing to consolidate it. So we've worked with clients in a lot of different capacities. and in different industries who are looking to streamline and apply the similar logics that we've touched on today to their industry, and that's absolutely possible. But Mrudula, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too as a sales engineer, because I know you work across a lot of different industries as well.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, the solutions engineering team at HubSpot, we work with all different types of industries, whether that's FinServe, manufacturing, construction, healthcare. So there's a wide variety of prospects that we speak to. And this is something that comes up often, that kind of onboarding, tracking, task assignment flow. It can be really useful in different industries. So a couple things that we can do, right? If all of the folks who are part of that onboarding process are working within HubSpot, let's say it's, kind of a handoff between your sales team and your service team, all of the data about that client is in that HubSpot database. So you're able to access everything documented by marketing and sales, everything HubSpot is automatically documenting from the service or onboarding side. And we can trigger automation, tasks, notes, queue up whatever we need to for the onboarding teams. Now, let's say you've got onboarding folks, service folks, or even customer support, customer success working outside of HubSpot. We can share information and trigger tasks in alternate platforms as well. So one thing we've seen is you've got an automated workflow inside of HubSpot, taking clients all the way to the point that they are ready and prepared for onboarding. At that point, you can send a webhook or some other data to an external platform to queue up the onboarding process there as well. So it really depends on where those onboarding teams and users are living day to day, can accommodate both scenarios. But yeah, definitely something that comes up in different industries. We see it a lot in SaaS and software as well. How do we get folks onboarded using their SaaS products? How do we track their activity inside the SaaS product? How do we ping success teams to let them know if there's inactivity or less use than expected? Maybe this is now a churn risk because they haven't been super active. So there's a wide variety of industries where that can be helpful. Yeah, I can take this one here, actually.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I dropped this one over in the Q&A, but social video views and social activity is not yet a part of the customer journey analytics, but it is something on our product team's radar. So stay posted for that. But I'll call out a couple activity types that you can use in customer journey views today. That flow diagram that we saw, you can track any kind of website activity, email engagement, sales touch points. You can also track engagements with SMS and custom events. So we were just talking about that onboarding flow, right? And consuming information like use of an app, or if somebody's been active in an account, those are what we would call kind of custom events. Those can be included in customer journey views as well. Go ahead, Chris.
You hit the nail on the head. Nothing else to add. Awesome. So does HubSpot integrate with existing email platforms such as Constant Contact? So yes, it does. I shared a link in the chat to the marketplace integration. It's actually a HubSpot built integration, which means it's native to HubSpot. You can use it out of the box in free or lower levels of their platform. I will say transparently, and like I mentioned in the chat, most companies that are looking at HubSpot and use Constant Contact, which is really a point solution for email marketing, will replace a tool like Constant Contact with HubSpot if they were going to invest in HubSpot, because HubSpot sort of makes Constant Contact, it has redundant capabilities. So, but if that is a platform that you love and you want to stay with and you want to use HubSpot, you can absolutely use Constant Contact. Great question here. So we have a data warehouse, but IT won't approve a connector like Skyvia. So we're manually uploading contact info. Do other CUs run into this issue solutions? So Skyvia, as I'm familiar with it, is an SFTP tool, and it does more than that. I guess that's an oversimplification. It effectively a reverse ETL tool that can help you get data from a data warehouse to other systems like HubSpot. from what we've seen and with data warehouses, the core component of this is to leverage or get ETLs, extract, transform, and load data into the platform. The reverse ETL is get data from data warehouse to a platform like HubSpot. You don't necessarily need a tool like Skyvia. HubSpot has APIs, and you can leverage those APIs directly to access other systems. HubSpot also does have some out-of-the-box integration capabilities with some of these other tools that don't require a third-party platform to be put in place, like a Skyvia. So, for example, I mentioned Datava and Snowflake and BigQuery. Those platforms have out-of-the-box integrations with HubSpot that don't require you to then go out and purchase another middleware solution like a Skyvia that you have to put in place. So this is a very common question. There's resistance from the IT side can be common in this space. And there are a number of different ways that you can work through it, Jennifer. And hopefully that helps answer your question. Any last questions here? It seems like that's it. So we'll keep going on, but if anyone has any questions, happy to follow up after the webinar. In terms of resources, so we've put together a number of different resources where you can learn where we can share more information about HubSpot for financial services organizations. HubSpot's put some together. MoleStreet, we have a whole dedicated page that speaks to this. There are also some FinServ guides, as well as content that you can consume that talks about some of the best practices across how to leverage a tool like HubSpot in a financial services organization. So really looking forward to sharing this as a follow-up. And like we said, if anyone has any questions, please let us know. With that, I believe we have one final poll. And that poll is, would you be interested in receiving a personalized HubSpot demo? So yes, please, or no, thank you. And this will be our final question before we wrap up for today. So really appreciate everyone's time and look forward to sharing this as a follow-up. And if you have any direct questions, our team will be in touch and can share more information about how to be in touch with us.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for all of the thoughtful questions in the chat as well. Always good to see some engagement there.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. And again, appreciate the time.